They have already started to solve the problem for us, so we're just going to continue what they started. They have 37.5 divided by 10 and 3/4 is equal to 75 over 2 divided by blank. So the 75 over 2 represents 37.5. They've changed this mixed number into an improper fraction. We have to do that before we start to divide. So that's why we have to rewrite each mixed fraction. So 37 times 2 plus 1 is what gives you 75, and your denominator stays the same. Now we're going to do the same thing for 10 and 3/4. 4 times 10 is 40. And then, let me just write this real quick. 4 times 10 is 40, plus 3 is 43. So we have 43 over 4. Our denominator stays the same. Now we can continue to divide. When we are dividing, we are using keep, change, reciprocal. So I'm going to draw K for keep, C changing division to multiplication, and reciprocal of the second fraction. So we keep 75 over 2. We change division to multiplication, and then 43 over 4 turns into 4 over 43. And now you multiply straight across. So I like to simplify before multiplying straight across so that I don't have these huge numbers. So I'm going to look across diagonally at my 2 and my 4. They do have a common factor, and the greatest common factor they have is 2. So if I divide 2 by 2, I get 1. If I divide 4 by 2, I get 2. So now if I multiply straight across, my numbers are a little bit smaller. I can also look across to 75 and 43 to see if there is a common factor amongst those two numbers. However, I don't think they do. So those will stay the same, and we will just multiply straight across. So 75 times 2 is 150. And then 1 times 43 is 43. Now this is an improper fraction, so we cannot leave our answer as an improper fraction. So I need to take my numerator and divide it into my denominator. So I'm going to do that over here on the side. So 43 can go into 150 3 times. 43 times 3 is 129. And then 150 minus 129 is 21. And I'm going to stop here because I just want a simpler fraction. So my 3 becomes my whole number. My 21 becomes my new numerator, and 43 stays my denominator. So the answer to this question would be that Damon can fit actually 3 and 21 over 43, but we can't have 21 over 43 parts of a bumper sticker. So you would say, as the final answer, let me do a different color to answer the question, would actually be just 3. So Damon can fit 3 medium bumper stickers on his car bumper because he can't tear up the fourth one to be 21 and 43. So we have to use the whole number only to answer the question. Determine whether each piece of information is needed to solve the problem. Drag tiles to show information is needed to solve this problem. So we will look at these tiles and we're just going to see what we need and what we don't. So these are the tiles that we need to move around. So let's see what information we do need. Let's go back to the question. How many round trips to work can Kayla drive on a full tank of gas? Well, in this table for car specifications, it talks about fuel capacity. That means the size of the tank where you put the gas. So the amount of gas is 16 gallons. We do need that information because we need to know how many, how much of this 1 3/5 gallons of gas she's going to use each time. Like, we need to know that by knowing the total amount of gas. So with that being said, I did say 1 3/4 gallons. We do need that because that is how much gas she uses for each round trip. And round trip means going to work and coming back. That's round trip. Let's see. We have the fuel economy. That tells you how many miles per gallon that your car will use driving in the city. So that means on regular streets that have stop signs, stop lights. That's what that means. And then 32 miles per gallon highway is when you're driving on a highway like 95 or the Turnpike or 595 or 75, all of those highways where there's no stopping. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we should need to know about that. It says it's full. So let's see. You can move around to make room. So I guess we just need those two. We don't need that right now. All right, so all we need is the 16 gallons to fill up the tank, and that it takes 1 3/5 gallons each round trip. Now we're going to see how to solve this problem. Step 1, estimate using compatible numbers. They took 16 and that's the 16 gallons divided by the 1 3/5 per round trip, and the compatible number they used was 2 to replace the fraction, the mixed number fraction here. And so 16 divided by 2 is 8. And so 16 divided by 1 3/5, and that squiggly equal sign means approximately. That means it's not exact. So it means approximately 8 gallons. So step 2, we're actually going to divide without compatible numbers. So we have 16 divided by 1 3/5. Any whole number you want to make a fraction, you just put it over 1. So you have 16 over 1 divided by 8 over 5. And remember, we are changing this mixed number to the improper fraction. So 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 plus 3 is 8. So that's where the 8/5 comes from. Now we're going to divide by using the keep change reciprocal. So we keep the 16 over 1, change the division to multiplication, and the reciprocal of 8/5 is 5/8. And then we multiply straight across. So 16 times 5 is 80, 1 times 8 is 8, and then this is an improper fraction and we cannot leave it this way, so we must simplify. So 8, our denominator is going to go into our numerator. 8 goes into 80 10 times. So the simplified answer is 10. So the estimate was 8, and that's close to the quotient, which is 10. So the answer is reasonable. So Kayla can drive 10 round trips to work on a full tank of gas. So let's look at step 1. We estimate using compatible numbers. So if we look at the sign here, it says the trail length is 15 5/6 miles. So we're going to divide the 15 and 5/6 miles and divide it by the 4 hours that Quinn was hiking. And they use compatible numbers, so they change the 15 and 5/6 to 16. And then divided by 4, which is equal to 4. So the answer or quotient should be approximately 4. So let's see. Step 2, we're going to now divide the fraction. So we must change our mixed number into an improper fraction. 15 times 6 plus 5 is 95 over 6. And then remember, a whole number as a fraction, you just put it over 1. So that's 4 over 1. And then we do keep, change, reciprocal. So we keep the first fraction, change division to multiplication. And then the reciprocal of 4 over 1 is 1 over 4. And then we multiply straight across. So the 95 times 1 is 95. 6 times 4 is 24. And then we have to simplify this because it's an improper fraction. So 24 goes into 95 3 times, and 23 over 24. So the estimate of 4 is close to the actual quotient of 3 and 23 over 24. So Quinn hiked 3 and 23rd over 24 miles each hour she was hiking. Now let's divide. So we're going to do A, 20 divided by 2 and 2/3. So let's look at this. All right, I'm going to set this one up with doing the 2 and 2/3, changing it to an improper fraction. So I'm going to put 20 over 1 divided by 2 and 2/3. We have to change it. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. So I have 8, and my denominator stays the same. Now we can multiply straight. I'm sorry, we're not multiplying, we're dividing. We're going to do keep, change, reciprocal. I'm just going to change my color. We have keep, change, reciprocal. We keep 20 over 1, change division to multiplication, and then the reciprocal of 8/3 is 3/8. And then we can multiply straight across. But as I mentioned before, I like to simplify before multiplying straight across so that I don't have a really big number. So we're going to look across diagonally of 20 and 8. They do have a common factor. Let's think of the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of 8 and 20 would be 4. So if I divide 8 by 4, I would get 2. If I divide 20 and 4, I would get 5. And then 1 and 3, the common factor would be 1, so that doesn't change anything. So now I'm ready to multiply straight across. So 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 2 is 2. Now that is an improper fraction. We cannot leave it that way. So I'm going to take my denominator, divide it into my numerator. 2 goes into 15. 7 times, that's 14. And 15 minus 14 is 1. So this improper fraction turns into 7, because 7 becomes my whole number. And my remainder 1 becomes my numerator, and 2 stays the same as my denominator. So my final answer is 7 and a half. Now let's take a look at B. 12 and a half divided by 6. We need to make sure our 12 and a half becomes an improper fraction. So 12 times 2 is 24 plus 1 is 25. So we have 25 over 2 divided by 6, which is going to be 6 over 1 because it now needs to be a fraction. And now we're going to do keep, change, reciprocal. So we keep, change, reciprocal, keep 25 over 2, change division to multiplication, and then 6 over 1 becomes 1 over 6. And now we can see if we can simplify. Nope, neither can be simplified. So we're going to multiply straight across. So we're going to multiply. 25 times 1 is 25. 2 times 6 is 12. That's an improper fraction, so we cannot leave it that way. So we're going to divide it. 12 goes into 25 twice. That's 24. 5 minus 4 is 1. So our final answer would be 2 is our whole number, 1 is our new numerator, and 12 is our denominator. So our final answer here is 2 and 1/12.